Right now, there are about 2.4 billion cans sitting quietly in American kitchen cabinets. In your kitchen, behind the ketchup bottle, behind that unopened box of pasta, there is almost certainly at least one. When did you buy it? A year ago, 2 years? Did you know that can, if it was properly sealed, could still be completely safe to eat by the time your grandkid starts college? In a world where an apple goes bad in a week, yogurt sours in 3 days, and the vegetables in your fridge have a shorter lifespan than a single Netflix episode, how does a plain metal cylinder freeze time? Welcome to Mysteries of Simple Things, the channel where everyday secrets are uncovered and explained. The answer starts in 1795 with a man that history has almost completely forgotten, even though without him, Napoleon's army might have starved to death before conquering a single country. His name was Nicolas Appert, not a scientist, not an engineer. He was the ninth of 11 children, grew up in a family that ran a small inn, and spent 13 years working as a chef for a French count, an ordinary cook. And yet he was the man who changed the way humanity eats forever. In 1795, the French government offered a massive cash prize to anyone who could solve Napoleon's most urgent problem: food was spoiling too fast on long military marches and soldiers were going hungry. Appert spent 14 years of trying and failing, before he found the answer. He packed food into champagne bottles, sealed them tight with cork and wax, and boiled them for hours at a time. The food did not rot. He had no idea why. He only knew that it worked. He won the prize in 1810 and collected 1,2000 francs, a serious sum of money at the time. But here's the part history rarely tells. In 1814, Prussian and Austrian forces marched into France and leveled his workshop. He rebuilt. Then everything collapsed again. The man who fed millions of soldiers died in 1841, broke and forgotten, buried in a pauper's grave without a single cent to his name. Nobody remembered him. His method, originally called appertizing, after his name lived on forever. Also in 1810, a British inventor named Peter Durand replaced Appert's fragile glass bottles with tin-plated iron cans. Lighter, tougher, perfect for the battlefield. But right about now, you might be wondering if the tin can was invented in 1810. What exactly did people use to open it? The answer will make you laugh. A hammer. And a chisel. That was the official instruction from manufacturers for decades. It took until 1858, 48 years later, before the first can opener was invented in America. And that thing was a crude, serrated blade that sawed around the lid and left a jagged, razor-sharp metal edge behind. The familiar can opener sitting in your kitchen drawer right now. That did not show up until 1925. For over a century, people had figured out how to perfectly preserve food, but had absolutely no decent way to get it back out. But not every chapter of this story is funny. There is a dark side to canned food history that the industry would rather you forget. In January of 1852, at the Royal Navy's Portsmouth Harbor in England, inspectors cracked open 306 cans of meat intended for the British Navy. First can spoiled. Cans 2 through 18 spoiled. Can 19 finally safe. Then spoiled again. Inside those ruined cans were rotting tongues, putrid organs, blood tendons, and things the inspectors could only describe as a putrid mass. The smell was so overwhelming that the warehouse floor had to be covered in lime just to make it bearable. Final count: 264 out of 306 cans were thrown into the sea. The man behind it was a contractor named Stephen Goldner, who won the government contract by underbidding everyone else, used cheap labor, and simply did not cook the meat long enough inside oversized cans. And here's the darkest detail of all: Sir John Franklin's Arctic expedition of 1845, all 129 men ate food supplied by that same contractor. Not one of them made it home. That is exactly why modern food science made sure it could never happen again. But before Louis Pasteur discovered bacteria in 1860 and finally explained why Appert's method actually worked, nobody truly understood the enemy they were up against. And the most dangerous enemy of all goes by the scientific name Clostridium botulinum. This is not something you have to go looking for. This is the thing hiding inside cans that look completely normal. No smell, no color, no taste. You cannot sniff it out. You cannot see it. You only find out when it is already too late. How dangerous is it exactly? Not plutonium, not arsenic. This is the single most toxic substance science has ever identified. 1 gram properly dispersed is enough to kill 14,000 people. That is why modern canning does not use a simple boiling water bath. It uses industrial pressure cookers cranked up to 240 degrees Fahrenheit, wiping out every last spore without exception. Meat, fish, beans, soup, all of it goes through this process, no shortcuts allowed. Once the lid is sealed, something remarkable happens. No oxygen, no bacteria, no active enzymes. Time inside that can genuinely stops. And the most beautiful proof of that comes from the bottom of the Missouri River. In 1865, a steamboat called the Bertrand sank during an accident. In 1968, more than a century later, archaeologists found the wreck. Inside were perfectly intact, tightly sealed cans of food 103 years old. The microbiological test results still safe to eat. While the outside world went through 2 world wars, invented the computer, and sent men to the moon, those cans simply sat there silent and unchanged. Time inside them had truly stood still. But before you start worrying that you have been eating dead food, here is the twist almost nobody expects. Canned tomatoes actually contain more lycopene than fresh ones because the high heat of the canning process increases how well your body absorbs this antioxidant, the same one researchers have linked to lower cancer risk. After a full year sitting at room temperature, canned food still holds onto 85% of its vitamin C. Minerals are barely affected at all. That can you grabbed at Walmart for under $2 is not just convenient. It is genuinely holding its own against the fresh produce you hauled home from the farmer's market. Just remember one thing. If a can is bulging, rusted, or deeply dented, do not open it. That is the only visible warning sign for a danger you cannot smell, cannot taste, and cannot see. So next time you crack open a can of soup at 10 o'clock at night, after a long day when the kids are already asleep, the stove has gone cold, and you just need something quick and warm, remember that what you are holding is not just dinner. It is the result of 14 years of trial and error by an ordinary cook, a scientific revolution 2 centuries in the making, and a survival hack that outlasted 2 world wars just to end up in your hand for less than $2.